Hello and welcome to round 3 of the BSR TV Carrera Cup here on BSR TV. Coming from Watkins Glen, and if this third round is anything like the first 2 rounds of this new championship season, we're in for a treat. We've seen 20 laps of very, very close racing, and hopefully we can bring the same to you now. I'm Marcus Narris, joining me is Carl Young. Good evening, Carl.
Evening, Marcus.
Carl, interesting first couple of races there. Race 2 is of particular note. We saw almost a 40-second gap between first and 10th place in that first race, but the reverse grid in race 2 really doing its job, and there was less than 15 seconds between first place and 10th place in that second race. I guess we can look forward to a lot more close racing again here in round 3, seeing as that reverse grid is in operation again.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Lots of close racing so far here in tonight's racing action at Watkins Glen International, and you can for sure expect the same here for this third race. Just so close there, that last race within the top 10. Lots of guys battling it out and fighting for positions late in the race. It ended up breaking down to about 4 cars at the very end, but throughout the middle portion of that race, there was 10 drivers literally within a few seconds of each other, and then things started to spread out. So the reverse grid has definitely been doing the job, keeping these guys mixed up and getting the action all sorts of crazy throughout the beginning portions of the race, and you should definitely expect to see the same thing here in this third race for sure.
So we saw in the second race there the race 1 winner, Ian Smythe, really carving his way through the field, and despite having to start race 2 in 10th place due to the reverse grid system, managed to work his way up to second place, and he's going to be trying to do it again in this third race, you'd assume. Also of interest is race 1 runner-up Oki Stokenberger, who was very unfortunate in that second race to get caught up in somebody else's accident on the first lap, and it dropped him way down into the bottom of the field. So he's going to be working hard to make his way back up through the field. It's going to be interesting, Carl. Do you see Stokenberger getting as far as the top 10, and can you realistically see Ian Smythe making his way to the front again?
Oki Stokenberger has a huge amount of work to do in order to be able to get to the top 10. Had a very rough race, ended up flipping in that last race, and finished towards the tail end of the field. So he has a long race to be able to get through to be able to come out of this third race with a decent finish. Ian Smythe, I definitely do feel, has a realistic shot of working through the field again and being able to contend for the win. He did it in race 2 and was able to hang on to that second place with a pretty heavily damaged race car. So now that he's got a fresh car, he's done it once before, I definitely feel like he can do it again and be able to contend for this win.
And of course the big winner in race 2, in fact the actual winner in race 2 was Gary Toole in the number 15 Epicuri Banana car, and he came from 7th place, I believe, on the grid to take that win, and he showed a good turn of pace, and again, as we move into the last couple of minutes of the warm-up session, it's Gary Toole who finds himself towards the top of the standings. He's in 2nd place in terms of times in this warm-up session, so he's definitely found a little bit of pace. And of interest is Ellis Stevens. Ellis Stevens runs 3rd currently in warm-up, and Kyle, he'll find himself starting 3rd in this third race by virtue of the reverse grid in his finish in race 2.
Indeed he will, and right now he is just about 2.5 tenths off of Matthew Webb's fastest time in warm-up. So that could be a big factor here as we start this third race. He's got great field position, and off of that warm-up lap, he's got great pace. So if he's able to sneak past those first 2 drivers here in the first lap, maybe, and try to work through the boot portion and try to extend a lead, he might be able to get a decent-sized lead that could play a huge factor in some of the faster guys behind him trying to catch him. He should know he's got great pace, and he's got a great opportunity to be able to pull away and really make something happen in this race.
Excellent, and he's going to be starting in third place, right behind on the grid, directly behind the number 147 car of Robert Plumley. And Plumley finds himself again at the sharp end of the grid. He started race 2 in second place by virtue of a 9th place finish in race 1, and he finished in 10th place in race 2, and he's not hanging around either. He's running top 10 times in the warm-up, so it'll be interesting. Plumley got gobbled up a little bit by 2 or 3 cars behind him in the first couple of turns in that second race, so he'll be keen to make amends as we move into this race. So as the cars start to take to the grid now, let's give you a full rundown of the starting positions of that top 10 for this third race of the BSR TV Carrera Cup. Starting from pole position is car number 147, Robert Plumley. Alongside him, car number 3 of Stanimir Zusov, and Zusov's had a reasonably quiet but very strong evening, and he'll be keen to progress. Ellis Stevens, as we mentioned, is third, alongside Matt Malone in fourth. Patrice Longley and Michael Stephen are 5th and 6th. Cyril Thomas in the 888 car we saw in so much action in race 2 starts from 7th. Stefan Hoog starts in 8th place. Ian D. Smythe, by virtue of that second place in race 2, starts 9th, and it's race 2 winner Gary Toole who starts from 10th position. So that gives us a fairly strong top 10, and it'll be very, very interesting to see exactly how these guys organise themselves as the engine notes rise and we get ready for the start of this third race. Will Plumley be able to get away this time, or will Zusov get the jump on him? And it goes green and away we go, and Robert Plumley makes again a reasonable start, but he's certainly got company of in the form of Stanimir Zusov, who tries to go around the outside of into turn 1, runs very, very wide and tries to come back on the circuit. Plumley has to take avoiding action, but holds onto that inside line, and Zusov takes the outside line going through the first part of the S's and has to tuck in behind Plumley. A much, much better start from Robert Plumley there, and he'll be very, very happy that he was able to get away and hang on to that pole position as well as he did, as they thunder up the back straight for the first time. And Carl, it's 2 and 3 wide going into the carousel.
Oh,
and,
we got problems! Stanimir Zusov up on his side and upside down.
And it looks to me like the culprit then, for want of a better phrase, was one of the BSR TV cars, maybe the car of Ellis Stevens. Let me have another look at that and just see if I can pick the bones out of that one. As they came down into the carousel, they hadn't even made it as far as the carousel, and things went horribly wrong for a lot of cars there. And as we look at it, it was actually the number 305 car of Michael Stephen got into the back of Ellis Stevens and turned poor old Ellis not completely around, I don't believe, but certainly pushed him way offline and made him jink hard to the left, and he got very hard into Stanimir Zusov and flipped Zusov, and then behind him it was anybody's guess. With the car parked on the apex, there was 3, 4, 5, 6 cars certainly involved in that accident. It looks like Vittorio Saltolomacchia, Paul Thurston, and one of the Matt Moot cars involved in that. So a bit of a mess there as we went into the outer loop for that the first time their car.
Yeah, and another one of the once again involved in this crashing. There were 3 cars that went upside down. He went upside down again. The 7 machine of Oki Stokenberger, hard impact amongst some of these other cars, and flipped upside down, as well as trying to see who that was. The 07 machine, he also went upside down. So a nasty crash to start this first lap to the third race here.
Yeah, and that number 7 car, unfortunately, that's Oki Stokenberger again, our race 1 runner-up, the victim of somebody else's accident, and finds himself with nowhere to go again. And Stokenberger, you can he's making his feelings known in the text chat, and he's not a happy bunny at all. So again,
no, he's not at all.
Yeah, you wouldn't be. That's twice in a row he's been taken out of the race due to somebody else's accident, and he's been running a strong pace tonight. So as we make our way through this second lap, it's again all change in the positions. Robert Plumley holds the lead at the moment, although he's being very, very closely pursued by... No, he's not, because Michael Stephen manages to spin it and throw it off the circuit, and at the risk of being accused of being harsh, there's probably some karma in there. Stephen being the the driver that seemed to cause that contact on the start-finish straight that ended the races of so many drivers in that first lap. So as we move into the beginning of lap 3, Carl, we've got Robert Plumley in the lead, and he'll be delighted to hold that lead. Second place now is Matt Malone, running about 0.7 of a second behind Plumley. In third place is Ian D. Smythe. There again, doesn't seem to go away, and again the beneficiary of someone else's accident. And Smythe finds himself in a strong third place, Kyle, in an undamaged car this time.
Yes, he does, Marcus. Undamaged third place, and not that far away from those top two. If he can get a little bit of ground and then catch that draft, he'll be right in contention as we see the 24 machine of Matt Malone peek to the outside, heading into the carousel. Looks like he may have the advantage, going to try to come down and clear, and he's going to be able to do it. New leader, the 24 Matt Malone, and that side-by-side racing action is going to allow the 06 machine of Ian Smythe to close in just a little bit further, and now he is right tucked up underneath the back bumper of the 147 of Robert Plumley, so a 3-car gap here. They got a little bit of a gap between fourth place there, Patrice Langlet, and these top three now going to duke it out here for the lead. Matt Malone, Robert Plumley, and Ian Smythe, the top three.
And what it's done behind Langley in the old Renault Mild 7 style livery car is bring Stefan Hoog and Ellis Stevens in the ES Images BSR TV.net cars very much into play, and what it has done, it's really compacted things.
Oh, Marcus
Plumley's
around.
Plumley loses it from the lead going into that fast left-hander, and I don't think it was unassisted. Looking at the replay now, Smythe gets, oh dear, Smythe just pokes his nose up the inside of Robert Plumley as Plumley starts to take his line into that left-hander there, and really just pushes Plumley round. There's contact into that left rear quarter panel of Plumley's car, and as people often say, you can push these things round with a finger, and maybe a bit aggressive from Smythe there, Carl, but maybe a little bit of inexperience from Plumley for leaving that door open when you've got someone with the pace of Smythe right behind you.
Yeah, for sure there, Marcus. A tough break there for that 147. Robert Plumley, he was able to get the pull off of the reverse grid and had a great start to this race. It looked very promising for him, but unfortunately, that spin's going to drop him from second place to 18th, now 24.5 seconds off of the race leader, Matt Malone here, who is one of a handful of American drivers here in tonight's event. Only one of 2 American drivers in this race, and he is currently out in front here, so a bit of home turf here, I guess you could say. He's from the Illinois club, as we are racing in New York here in the United States, but making it happen here as he's got a just under 1.5 second lead here over Ian Smythe on lap 4, but Smythe is a very, very strong competitor. He's going to be running him down and try to contend for this one, as he's gained a lot of time here on this first lap, and now Patrice Langley is right behind him as well, so starting to shape up just like last race.
Yeah, and the guys up front, Matt Malone, there caught some traffic in the form of Eckhart von Glan, a regular runner in these series, and it really has compacted that field again, so certainly Malone is going to be staring hard in his mirrors as we begin the 5th lap of this race. He finds himself just 0.2 of a second ahead of Ian Smythe, and we've seen already that Smythe is not prepared to take any prisoners tonight, so he's going to be on a real charge. Patrice Langley is about 0.5 second back from Smythe. I'm not convinced he's making any significant headway, but as we go on to the back straight again for the 5th time, it's Smythe all over the back of Malone, and he looks again to try and get the move done around the outside, as we've seen so many times, but Malone very, very brave and very late on the brakes, and a bit of a chop there from Smythe. I'm not sure Matt Malone will be delighted with that. Malone did the right thing there. He held the inside line and really got on the brakes as late as he possibly could, but again, Smythe making it very, very clear that he wasn't prepared to settle for second best, and sweeps his car across the front of Matt Malone to get that pass done and take the lead.
Yeah, that was a very, very close pass there by Ian Smythe, but clearly making it known that he wants to be out in front and is almost willing to do anything to take that. Can't quite pull away from him just yet, as now Patrice Langley is right on the rear bumper of the 24, and Stephen Hoog in the 8 machine, he's starting to stick his nose into this battle just a little bit. So even though we got a swap for position here up front, still very, very tightly packed, these 4 cars, probably within about a second and a half of each other here as they head towards the start-finish line, working their way through turn 11 to hit the cross flags halfway in this final race of the night.
Yeah, and this is where Longley and Smythe need to be clever, and unfortunately it doesn't look like they're going to be there. If they start fighting hard for second place, as they are doing now, all they're going to do is just give Smythe, with the inherent pace that he's got, the opportunity to disappear off up the road. You know, it's only lap 6, and as we saw from Smythe in that first race, you really don't want to be in first place with a car tucked behind you going into the final lap, because the draft will kill you. And that squabbling between Matt Malone and Patrice Longley, again, maybe a little bit of experience from Longley. He's very, very keen to race Malone, where you've got to think, Carl, the more sensible thing to do is tuck in and see if they can put Smythe under some significant pressure.
Yeah, these guys really do need to just try and stay in line, and with them racing side by side, it is going to allow Smythe to pull away. They've been able to keep him in check so far, but they really need to work together if they're going to have anything for Smythe. He's proven to be probably the strongest car of the night. He won the first race, finished second in the second race, and now he's in the lead here after halfway in the third race. He's definitely strong, and these guys know that. They've got to be able to work together here, fight it out, kind of stay, in line. It'll be tough to see what they do going down the backstretch, because the draft is so strong, and with as close as they are, they're going to have that urge, and they're going to want to be able to pull out and make that pass. It'll be interesting to see if they try to make that pass with the draft, or if they wait till the last lap and make it exciting. But for sure, if they're able to stay in touch with each other here throughout these next 4 laps or so, take a good look here on that back straightaway for some good racing, as we got a battle for second now.
Yeah, and unfortunately Matt Malone ran wide and got out on the grass and had to get out the gas, and unfortunately it forced the cars behind him, Longley and Stefan Hoog, to have to get out the gas as well, and what that's done is that's opened up a 1.4 second gap for Ian Smythe as we go into this 7th lap, and these 3 guys are out the draft now, and you've got to think that's good night and goodbye for Ian Smythe. Now he's out of the draft, he's surely just going to drive away from these guys.
Yeah, it's looking like that as Stephen Hoog, he's looking down to the inside right now, not trying to stay in line with Patrice Longley. He's looking to the inside, trying to make the move and trying to take the spot. They're side by side through the carousel. Matt Malone right there with him. They're still side by side, coming off and entering into the boot. So this is only going to allow Smythe to pull away even more. Not looking good for these guys if they're going to be able to catch. And Langley's sideways. He's going to get a tap from Malone and go around.
Yeah, that's a real shame, but almost inevitable. I mean, those guys are squabbling very, very hard. Certainly, for my view, a little bit too hard, bearing in mind that we're only on lap 7. There's a good 2 or 3 opportunities to make passes stick, but there we go. So the race now is kind of divided up. Smythe leads by quite a distance now, and the big race in this top 10 seems to be this battle for 5th, 6th and 7th place. Gary Toole on that last lap in the number 15 car took 5th place away from Ellis Stevens with a great move down into the carousel. And just behind Stevens now is Nick McCarron running an excellent 7th place in that Matmut liveried car. McCarron's been threatening a decent result for a long time now. He's got very good pace and he's a very clean racer. Tends to get caught up in the odd incident here and there, maybe more than he'd like, but he'll be delighted with 7th place, and he's putting Ellis Stevens under some real pressure as they come into to start lap 8, work their way up through the S's onto this back straight. Smythe now leading by 2.2 seconds from Stefan Hoog in the ES Images BSR TV liveried car. Matt Malone, the local boy, if we can call him that. I know Illinois and New York are quite a distance apart, but he finds himself in 3rd as there's a move by McCarron as we anticipated up the inside of Stevens going into the outer loop. Can he hold it to the apex? Stevens will be keen to try and get back alongside him as they run down towards this fast left-hander where we've seen so much action tonight. And who's latest on the brakes? Stevens very, very late on the brakes and gets the place back. Fantastic racing from these two, and it's definitely not over. McCarron jinks to the outside as they move down into the toe. Stevens holds that inside line, and it looks like he's got the pace on exit car to make that place stick.
Yes, he does. Able to get off that turn very, very well, and now looks like just in front of these guys, side-by-side action with Matt Malone and Gary Tall. Gary Tall got to take the spot away from Malone and move into the third spot, and now going to try to run down to Stephen Hoog and see if he has anything for him. Don't think anybody's going to have anything for Smythe now, as he is just off and away in the distance. As long as he keeps that car on the track, looks like he's going to be able to hang on to win it. But right now, the battle heating up here from the fifth through sixth here, as we got these four cars all tightly packed and battling it out for position. Now they got a bit of a gap between all four of them now, as they might be settling into their positions, and it'll be interesting to see here at the line the gap just about the same, 2.8 seconds between Stephen Hook and Gary Tall. So 2.8 from first to second and 2.8 from second to third. So lots of room in between there, and it'll be tough for these guys to reel each other down. Looks like the hottest battle for position is probably going to be between 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Yeah, as we wind down, it's interesting. Matt Malone seemed very, very willing and very compliant to make that facilitate that pass for Gary Tall. It's easy for me to say. So I'm not sure if he's carrying any damage, but he really didn't put up much of a fight. And again, Stevens gets a slight run on him, going down into the outer loop there, and there's not what you would call rigid defence from Matt Malone, and he gets a little bit sideways again, and that gives McCarron the opportunity to get up the inside of him. So Malone sees himself in the space of just about a lap go from third place down to sixth place behind Nick McCarron, and I think that race between Alice Stevens and Nick McCarron isn't done. We're going to see some fun and games between those guys before the end of this race, certainly.
I think Matt Malone might be dealing with some damage to that car, just the way that thing is wiggling throughout the turns. And you can see on the front end, he does have some damage to the left front. I think he's dealing with some handling issues from the damage. And I've been in that position before, and just watching the way that his steering wheel is moving, the way that he's slipping and sliding through the turns, I think the damage is affecting him on corner entry, and that's really hurting his performance here. He's got a bit of a gap between him and Tyon Dames here on this last lap, so as long as he's able to put up a consistent lap, he should be able to hang on to that sixth spot, but definitely not where he wanted to finish here in this race after having the lead at one point.
Yeah, and he's definitely damaged. I just one of the advantages of sim racing is we can have a look at everything from any angle. So I've just been looking at the race through the eyes of Matt Malone, and when that car's on the straight, he's having to put quite a bit of left-hand turn into that steering wheel. So he's definitely taken a whack, and there's something wrong with the suspension geometry of that number 24 machine, which is a real shame because, as you say, Carl, he was strong. As in front of him, McCarron looks to the inside of Stevens, gets it done again. Oh, great move, great driving by those two guys. And McCarron in that number one Matt Moog car will be hoping that he can hold Stevens off, but Stevens was very strong under the brakes here again last time around. But no, McCarron is equally as brave, holds Stevens off for now and gets the job done. So that's Nick McCarron up into a fantastic fourth place, and he'll be extremely keen to hang on to that fourth place as we move towards the closing stages of this race on this last lap of this third round of the BSR TV Carrera Cup here at
little
Watkins
contact
Glen.
there with Ellis Steven and Matt Malone there, Marcus. Stevens is off track.
Yep, he's driven away. He's driven off track, and Willem Boter and Tyon Dames have got past him, so that's going to drop him back, I think, into ninth place. As up front we see Ian Smythe take the final bend for the final time, and he takes a very bullish race win, is probably a polite thing to say. Crosses the line in first place, sorry, and he will be absolutely delighted with that result. I'm not sure some of the guys he was racing with will be very delighted with the manner in which some of those passes are executed, but he certainly had the pace on everyone tonight. Second place, Stefan Hoog. A fantastic result in the ES Images BSR TV car. Gary Toole, again, another strong result in third place. The winner of race 2, makes a podium in race 3. Nick McCarron in a fantastic 4th place, and knowing Nick as I do, he'll be, well, I'm not going to say delighted, he'll probably be slightly less grumpy than normal with that result, but it's a great result nonetheless. Thanks to the spin of Ellis Season, Tian Dames takes 5th place with Willem Boter, his teammate, right behind him. Stevens recovers to 7th place, Daniel Hunt takes 8th, Andy Scheel is 9th place, and Daryl Taylor rounds out our top 10. So, a little bit processional at the front in the last couple of laps, but certainly exciting through that 4th, 5th and 6th place battle, Carl, towards the end of the race.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of hard racing there, as we had predicted here in this final race for that 4th, 5th, and 6th spot. Looking at the results here, something happened to Matt Malone. Just watching him throughout that crash, he all of a sudden disappeared, and he's dropping way down in the results. He's probably going to end up finishing right around the 26th place spot. It's a tough break for him. Unfortunate there, and just getting word that possibly a disqualification for incidents could be the factor, as I haven't seen him fall out of the server at all yet. So that's a shame for Matt Maloney. It's such a great run. Had the lead at one point and slipped through, got some damage, and unfortunately not going to be able to finish very well in this final race.
Yeah, we do run in. It's not confirmed yet, but we do run in this championship an incident limit. You garner incidents in iRacing for driving off the track or contact with other cars, spins, and so on and so forth. And in order to promote clean racing, we do have an incident limit. And typically, if a driver just disappears off the face of the planet, as seems to be the case there with Matt Malone, it looks like he's been disqualified. And this isn't something you get notice on. If you reach that instant limit and you get disqualified, then you're immediately disconnected from the server. So it looks like that contact with the number 11 car in front of him of Ellis Stevens has pushed him over the limit. And yep, indeed, straight after the impact, there he goes. So we'll assume there that he's reached that disqualification instant limit and has been disqualified. A real shame, Carl, for someone who started so strongly.
Yeah, for sure. That is a huge upsetting thing there for Malone. You know, as I'd mentioned, he led 2 laps in this race, started to slip back, and then that happens, and he is going to come home in the 26th spot. Not what he wanted to do after running so strong.
Yeah, real shame there, and an absolute pity. And as we look at the reactions and recriminations from this race, Robert Plumley on text chat clearly not happy with Ian Smythe's pass, and he's been the fastest guy all night tonight, Carl. But Ian Smythe in that last race, the right side of aggressive or just the wrong side in your view?
I think, honestly, I kind of think that was the wrong side, in my opinion. You know, it was very early in the race. He's shown his speed. You know, had he have waited, he probably would have gotten by him still. Wouldn't have gotten into the lead as quickly, but I mean, he won the race by 3 seconds. So I think a little bit of over his head there, and unfortunately ruined the race of another. Robert was able to finish in 13, so he gained about 5 spots after the incident. But from starting in first place in this race, he definitely could have finished a lot better than what he did. An unfortunate break for him as well. Looking to try to capitalize on the reverse grid and have a great finish to wrap up this race before heading to Lamrock Park next week, but unfortunately not the case, and he's going to have to settle for 13th.
Yeah, a real shame for Plumley. But as you mentioned there, Carl, we'll be back at this again next week, next Wednesday night. We go to the very tight, very short, fast Lime Rock Park, and that will be interesting in these cars. But hopefully we'll see a full grid again next week, as we did, as this refocused BSR TV Carrera Cup Season 2 continues. It's been 3 excellent races, I think, tonight, and I'd like to thank you guys for joining us. Thanks for watching. I'd like to thank Carl for keeping me company as much as he could tonight, and also big thanks to Steve for manning the cameras tonight. My name is Marcus Naris. Thanks once again for joining us. Don't forget, tomorrow night, if you're a fan of Tin Top Racing, we'll be back here at Watkins Glen in the Kia for the BSR TV BTCC Championship. We hope we can join you then. But from me, Marcus Naris, for tonight, good night. Thanks for joining us.